Intellectual freedom begins when one says with Socrates that he knows nothing, and then goes on to add, do you know what you don't know, and therefore what you should know? If your answer is affirmative and humble, then you are your own teacher. You are making your own assignment, and you will be your own best critic. You will not need externally imposed courses, nor marks, nor diplomas, nor a nod from your boss in business or in politics. One of the things that I've found throughout this life is that the more I know, the more I realise how little I actually know. Have you ever asked yourself what you truly know to be true about anything? There are so many mysteries in this world, and there are so many things that are simply not what they seem, and attempting to find an answer to the human predicament and a way out of the human predicament is a path that is fraught with misdirection and distraction.
If you have one of these or something like it, take it out and hold it up. I'm predicting pretty close to 100% saturation. Look at that, I'm right. Probably 90% by now. It's the first thing you do in the morning. When you hold up and you wake up, you check your little robot. It's on your body for almost the entire day.
And the question is, are things unfolding the way they should as a natural result of human intellectual evolution or human spiritual evolution? Or is humanity simply being led into a certain direction whereby they think they are becoming freer, but really what is happening is they're becoming more controlled?
Right now, the system is attempting to evolve humanity through technology, so we can live in the Orwellian brave new smart grid that's being built all around us. This means people who are already asleep in a society largely run on falsity and deceptions, illusions, will be taken a step further away from themselves and reality.
A lot of this stuff that we're seeing is basically removing human decision making from certain equations. It's putting it all under the control of AI. And this is the case even with the blockchain, because the blockchain is basically its own thing and it runs its transactions and its ledgers in its own way. It removes human decision making from the chain. And this is a good thing in many ways as it decentralizes control of currency, but it also removes decision making from the minds of the average man on the street. You know, certain aspects of our lives that we're used to doing, certain things that make us human, these aspects of ourselves are being removed from us. And the machine is making more and more decisions that control everyday actions of our lives. A lot of people think this is a good thing because they're applying it to the currency and they're looking at the control that central banks have had over the currency for so long and the damage that it's done, and so decentralizing that control seems as a good thing. And yes, it is in many ways. But if that decentralization removes decision making from the minds of the people, from the hands of mankind in general, then it could lead to a place that is not exactly where we wanted it to go. That's the thing.
We got so addicted to technology that 9 out of 10 people today experience something called phantom vibrations. This is when you have your phone in your pocket and you thought it vibrated, you pull it out, there's nothing.
People looking at these little pieces of silicon in various sizes, not really communicating with each other, communicating with their little robot buddies. Is this where we're going next? Are we effectively softened up enough as humans with our robotic connections to the world that we are actually going to be accepting more, a lot more? And when you learn about what this is called virtual reality, you will be amazed at what it can do.
You imagine the control that comes over people's minds with that. And we've seen this as well with the introduction of so many new disabilities. You know, ADD, ADHD, you know, anything that isn't normal, anything that isn't perfectly mainstream, a child walking between the lines completely, any type of free thinking is being classed as a disability. Any type of stress is being classed as a disability. So we're creating a culture whereby more and more people are becoming more and more stressed, and so more and more people are becoming disabled, in inverted commas, in the eyes of the legal and economic system. And you think about it, even the World Health Organization has said that they're expecting stress to be the main cause of disabilities in the future. And in the future, what they're talking about is 2020. And a lot of this comes from the digital world as well. You know, you get into this world where it's all automated, there's no human in there making decisions for you, and you encounter a problem and you try to get this problem rectified. You go online to try to do it, and you're given a bot which gives you multiple choice answers. But what if one of those choices isn't the choice that suits you? What if you need to speak to someone and that option simply isn't there? You end up stressed. You end up not in a situation where you get what you want. You can never really get the problem rectified the way you would like it to be rectified. You always have to settle for some sort of compromise or some decision that is made by the machine. And this results in stress. So the whole thing's a play, and you get to a point where you realize that this is where we are being led. We are being led into a point, into a place, where as the system becomes more and more automated, more and more mechanized, people lose more and more employment and human decisions are removed from situations more and more. We get to a point where basically the entire human race ends up on a disability pension, or most of it anyway, because most of them simply can't function within the system. And if they can't function within the system, if their jobs are being removed and their normal life skills are being removed, well, what way can you compensate for these people? Well, the best way to do it is to put them on some sort of disability pension. And the way you do that is to make every loss of life skill, every life skill they've lost, and every emotion that they feel or any wish to express that emotion, if it's anything apart from bland happiness, becomes a disability. And I know this probably sounds a little difficult for people to deal with and a little difficult to take, and I'm not saying anything about people with normal disabilities. I mean, there's a lot of people out in the society who have disabilities, very genuine disabilities, who need looking after. What I'm saying, though, is that in this politically correct environment and in the type of world where any type of thinking outside the box is being classed as a disability. I mean, we've even heard anti-authoritarian syndrome. Someone who doesn't respect authority, doesn't want to do what they're told all the time. This is actually being seen as a disability. People who won't think inside the box, people who question their government. This is being classed as a mental problem, folks, a mental disorder. So it's very easy to categorize anybody who doesn't think the way you want them to think as being disabled, and that's what is happening. This, of course, has all been achieved via the gradual dumbing down of the human race as well. You know, the education system, and again, the things that we get on our mobile phones, all the little smart conveniences we get to help us out in our lives all the time, which prevent us from thinking for ourselves. And it's like anything becomes atrophied. As I said previously, if you don't use something, it becomes atrophied. If you don't use your legs, if you sit in a chair for 20 years and don't use your legs, they become atrophied. It's the same with your sight, it's the same with your hearing, and it's the same with your brain as well. If you don't use it, if you don't continue to grow those neural pathways, then they disappear. It's a simple fact that people use a GPS to navigate their way around their own city that they live in. So they don't have to think about where they're traveling. They don't have to think about whether they need to turn left or turn right, or they don't have to think about where they're going. They don't have to learn their way anywhere, because the machine will take care of it all for them. The machine will think for them, turn right here, turn left there, roundabout coming, merge with the traffic here. The GPS will even tell you that you need to merge with the traffic on the highway. When you're entering the on-ramp on a highway, it will tell you in 400 meters you need to merge with the traffic. Well, of course you do. You're entering a highway. You know you need to merge with the traffic. You don't need to have a machine to tell you. But what this does is it prevents people from thinking about anything. It turns people into these little automatons, these little drones that just do what they're told. Turn left here, turn right there, lift the right leg, lift the left leg. Soon you'll have little implants telling you have an itchy thigh, you need to scratch it, and it'll tell you how to scratch it. It's getting that bad, ladies and gentlemen. What this all does is it gradually removes people of their neurological powers. It removes people of their cognitive function. It prevents people from being able to think clearly about anything. It just shuts their brains down. And that is what all of this stuff is doing. That's what all these conveniences are doing. They're removing you of your life skills. Most people don't know how to do any of the most simplest tasks in life anymore because they need to be told how to do it. They need to read instructions on how to do it. They need to have a manual. They need to have something which tells them what to do.
We live in a world now where humans are not learning to love. They're not learning empathy, but they're becoming more apathetic and more disconnected. Inequality hasn't been solved in hundreds of years, and now it's at overwhelming levels, and still we parade forward, always forward, with the full knowledge that not everyone is going to have access to the best technology upgrades either, because it's going to be a big club, and the majority of us are not going to be in it, as George Carlin would say.
The only tyrant I will accept in this world is the still small voice within me. And even though I have to face the prospect of being in a minority of one, I humbly believe that I have the courage to be in such a hopeless minority.